The blade does not tremble. The wind holds its breath, and in that perfect stillness, a man is reborn. Miyamoto Musashi, the undefeated swordsman of Japan, was not merely a warrior of steel, but a philosopher of silence. He understood what few ever grasp. The battle is not against the enemy before you, but the chaos within. The world chases sin, noise. Musashi walked into solitude. While others sought victory, he sought mastery. Ruthless, clear, untouchable. This is not the story of war, but the story of focus. The kind that burns through distraction, ego, and fear. To walk Musashi's path is to forge the mind into a blade sharper than steel. A blade that cuts illusion, that slices through hesitation, that becomes one with presence itself. You are not here to learn how to fight. You are here to learn how to see. This is the path of Musashi, where silence trains the spirit, discipline tempers the will, and focus becomes the final weapon. Chapter 1. The noise of the world, the clang of steel, the shout of men, the pulse of chaos. Miyamoto Musashi moves through the battlefield like a storm made of silence. His blade cuts, not wildly, but with rhythm, a rhythm only he can hear. Each strike is precise, unhurried, inevitable. By dusk, the ground is painted red, and the cries fade into the hush of wind. But within him, something does not fade. It grows louder. He sheathes his sword, and for a fleeting second, the warrior listens, not to victory, but to the echo of his own heartbeat. It does not sound peaceful. It sounds hollow. For years, Musashi has been chasing ghosts. The ghost of glory, of recognition, of being unbeaten. Each duel adds another layer to his legend, yet strips another piece from his spirit. He begins to notice it, the emptiness after triumph, the ache that victory cannot fill. The battlefield may be silent, but the mind never is. He walks through villages that whisper his name like a myth. Children imitate his stance. Men speak of his duels as miracles. But behind their reverence hides something else. Fear, distance, misunderstanding. He is honored, but never known. Respected, but never at rest. Every night, he dreams of the faces he struck down, not as enemies, but as mirrors. Each opponent carried a reflection of his own unrest, his own ego dressed in another's armor. And so, he keeps fighting, believing that one day a duel will quiet the storm. It never does. The narrator's voice slows, deepens. The world rewards motion, but the spirit seeks stillness. The more we chase noise, the further we drift from truth. Centuries later, we mirror Musashi's madness. Our swords, our screens, our duels, our distractions. We cut through the hours with endless scrolling, chasing stimulation disguised as purpose. And just like Musashi, we call it discipline, when it is only compulsion. Back in feudal Japan, a faint rain begins to fall. Musashi walks alone along a narrow path between rice fields, his reflection wavering in the water beside him. Each droplet on the surface distorts his face. 1,000 versions of himself, none truly him. He feels the weight of his sword, once a symbol of mastery, now an anchor of identity. He wonders, have I become the blade I carry, or has it become me? In that quiet doubt, a seed is planted, a whisper, not from the world, but from something older, deeper, the ancient voice beneath all ambition. You fight to silence others because you fear the silence within. He stops walking. The rain slows, and for the first time, Musashi does not reach for his sword. He simply stands, still, bare, uncertain. The wind hums through the valley, carrying the scent of earth and wet bamboo. Something shifts in his gaze, not defeat, but awakening. He realizes he has been chasing focus through motion when all focus begins in stillness. The noise of the world was never outside him. It was the echo of his own unrest. And to still it, he must walk away from everything he has won. Chapter 1. Part 2. The silence beneath the battle night descends over a small village near Kyoto. The fires burn low, and yet Musashi cannot sleep. The moonlight seeps through the shutters, falling across the steel of his blade. He studies its reflection, and for the first time, he cannot see himself in it. Only distortion, only restlessness. He remembers his father's voice. A sword must never waver, and yet his hands tremble, not from fear, but from doubt. He wonders if all his victories have only polished his prison. Each duel gave him honor, but took something sacred. His silence, his stillness, his presence. Now the world outside him quiets, but within, a storm thrashes endlessly. He feels the loneliness that follows all men who mistake motion for meaning. At dawn, he walks to a nearby river. Mist rolls across the surface like unspoken thoughts. He kneels, washing blood from his hands. Blood that is his and not his. The water runs clear, then red, then clear again. He stares into the reflection and whispers, "If I am victorious in all battles, yet lose my spirit, what have I won?" A heron lifts from the reeds, wings slicing through the morning haze. For a moment, everything slows, the air, the sound, the mind, and in that stillness, Musashi feels something he has not known in years. Peace, not victory, not triumph. Peace. It lasts 3 breaths, then it's gone. But that moment, that glimpse, becomes his compass. He realizes focus is not the sharpening of attention toward one goal. It is the removal of everything that does not serve the moment. Just as a sculptor carves away stone to reveal form, a warrior carves away noise to reveal truth. The scene widens, cinematic, introspective, poetic. We see modern reflections, a man hunched over his phone, switching apps every 10 seconds, a student scrolling through dopamine instead of discipline, a world always connected, yet never present. Musashi's path mirrors ours. He is not ancient. He is eternal, the same human mind, lost in the same war against distraction. Neuroscience would later name it attentional drift, the brain's hunger for novelty, a biological echo of the warrior's addiction to battle. But long before science, Musashi understood it through experience. He saw that every victory against others was temporary, but a victory against the self endures forever. Days pass. He begins to avoid duels, despite invitations from lords and rivals. Rumors spread. Musashi has grown fearful, but the truth is far more dangerous. He is no longer interested in proving strength. He seeks something greater, mastery over mind. In one scene, he turns his back on a challenger. The man shouts insults, his blade gleaming under sunlight. But Musashi walks away without a word. Villagers gasp. He disappears into the horizon, the sound of his steps fading into the hum of cicadas. The narration closes softly, steady as a heartbeat. Discipline does not begin when you swing the sword. It begins when you put it down. Musashi leaves behind the noise, the duels, the names, the glory. He walks toward the mountains, toward the unknown, where silence waits like an ancient teacher. To master the sword, he must first face the silence that wields it. Chapter 2: The Mountain of Solitude. Part 1: Where the sword grows silent, mist clings to the slopes like breath on glass. Musashi climbs, not to conquer, but to vanish. The road is steep, the wind cold, and each step feels like a question. Who am I when no one is watching? He leaves behind the villages, the fame, the endless duels. He carries only what he needs: a small blade, a rice pouch, and the will to be unseen. The mountain greets him not with warmth, but indifference. Here reputation means nothing. The forest does not bow to victory. The wind does not whisper names. At first, solitude feels like punishment. The silence presses heavy, thicker than armor, colder than steel. He misses the chaos, the shouting, the certainty, the rhythm of survival. Without noise, he feels stripped bare. A man without a title, without an enemy, without purpose. But perhaps that is the lesson. He builds a small hut beside a stream. Wood, rope, earth. Each strike of the hammer echoes into the emptiness. When the shelter stands, he sits outside, staring at the endless veil of trees. The sound of rushing water becomes his only companion. At night, wolves howl from afar. He listens, unafraid. He realizes that solitude is not the absence of sound, but the presence of one's own mind, a presence most men run from. The days bleed together. He eats sparingly, drinks from the stream, sharpens no blade. His sword lies untouched, rust gathering like time itself. Instead, he sharpens his senses. The smell of pine, the chill of dawn, the pulse of rain against his skin. The forest becomes a mirror. Every rustle, every gust, every shifting shadow reflects his inner turbulence. When the wind grows violent, he feels his own anger rise. When the stream flows smooth, his heart calms. In the silence of the mountain, the world no longer distracts. It reveals. One evening, under a red sky, Musashi meditates by the fire. The smoke curls upward, dissolving into night. He studies its motion, how it bends with the wind, never resisting, never clinging, yet never losing itself. He whispers, "The way of the sword must be like this smoke, fluid, effortless, without ego." But his mind rebels. Thoughts crash in. Memories of opponents, of fame, of laughter in the villages below. He feels the craving to return, to prove again that he is the greatest. He almost stands. Almost. But the mountain holds him still. In that resistance, he begins to see. The human mind is not a weapon. It is a wild horse, untamed and relentless. Discipline is not the act of chaining it, but of learning to ride it without falling. Days turn to weeks. His body weakens, but his awareness sharpens. He can hear the ants moving in the soil, feel the pulse of his heartbeat sinking with the earth beneath him. The chaos inside begins to dissolve, not through effort, but through surrender. He learns that solitude is not escape. It is encounter. The mountain is not his retreat. It is his reflection. In the silence of the mountain, Musashi discovers his first true enemy, the restless mind within. Chapter 2, Part 2: The Mirror in the Silence. Days turn colder. Frost crawls over the edge of Musashi's shelter. The once flowing stream begins to crust with ice, and food grows scarce. Yet he does not leave. The hunger gnaws at his body, but he senses a deeper hunger awakening. a hunger not for food or victory, but for understanding. He sits cross-legged before his hut, the mountain stretching endlessly before him, the sky heavy with cloud. He closes his eyes and listens to the wind, to the river, to the faint whisper of his own heartbeat. At first, there is only noise, memory, regret, restless thought. He hears echoes of battle cries, the laughter of men long dead, the clash of swords that no longer exist. His mind conjures ghosts, and for the first time, he realizes his true enemy has never held a blade. It has always lived within him. The silence becomes his teacher, a mentor with no form, no face, no voice. Its lessons are not gentle. When he resists, it grows louder. When he accepts, it softens. Through cold mornings and sleepless nights, Musashi begins to observe his thoughts like passing clouds, not fighting, not following. He notices how every desire begins with fear, and every fear begins with attachment. To be free, he must let both die. He remembers his countless duels, how his mind would tremble with anticipation before the strike, how he mistook fear for focus and adrenaline for clarity. Now, with no opponent before him, he faces the raw truth. The noise was never in the battlefield. It was always in the mind of the warrior. The scene cuts to a modern reflection, the mentor's voice echoing across centuries. We all live surrounded by noise, not of swords, but of thoughts. We scroll through distractions as Musashi once walked through duels. Our minds crave movement, terrified of stillness. But stillness is the only place we ever meet ourselves. Science would later prove what Musashi intuited, that focus cannot survive constant stimulation. The mind's attention network, when overstimulated, burns through energy like fire consuming wood. True clarity requires rest, not sleep, but silence, a deliberate withdrawal from chaos. Musashi's solitude, in essence, was the earliest form of neurodiscipline, training the mind to dwell in awareness without addiction to action. Weeks pass. He no longer counts the days. The sword gathers rust beside him, and strangely, he feels stronger without it. Each morning, he watches the sunrise cut through the mist. Each night, he thanks the mountain for its stillness. Slowly, the noise within begins to fade, like ripples dissolving on a pond. One evening, as he tends a small fire, a thought arises and vanishes in the same breath. There is no opponent. There is only the path. He feels a calm he cannot explain. No triumph, no elation, only presence. And in that calm, something profound happens. His awareness expands beyond himself. He senses the trees breathing, the earth turning, the flame flickering, not as his, but as life itself. Musashi opens his eyes, and though the mountain looks unchanged, he perceives it as alive. Every sound, every silence, an extension of his own stillness. He whispers into the night, "I came to master the sword, but the sword has turned into sky." The camera pans upward, the moon hanging like a silent witness. The fire dims, the man remains unmoving, a mountain within the mountain. In solitude, he found silence. In silence, he found himself. But the next lesson would demand a greater sacrifice, the death of the ego itself. Chapter 3: The Death of Ego. Part 1: Shadows of the Self. The mountain has grown quieter. Even the wind seems to bow. Yet within Musashi, a storm begins again. softer than before, but sharper, more cunning. He has found silence around him, but not within. As he sits beneath a maple tree, a thought pierces through the stillness. I have mastered solitude. It feels clean, noble, enlightened, and that is how he knows it is a lie. The ego does not shout, it whispers. It hides inside virtue, wearing humility like armor. For days, he tries to meditate, but each time, a quiet pride surfaces. The pride of restraint, the pride of being beyond others. He begins to see the trap. Even the desire for mastery can become another form of bondage. The silence that once nourished him now turns against him. His mind starts conjuring old images, himself standing victorious, crowds chanting his name, his sword flashing under the sun. The visions feel real. He smells the iron of blood, feels the rush of battle, hears the whispers. You are the greatest. But in this dreamscape, something shifts. The faces of his opponents morph into his own. Every duel was against himself. Every enemy, a reflection of fear. He awakens in sweat, heart racing, eyes wild. The mountain air feels heavy, as if the earth itself is pressing him to confront what he's avoided all along. His identity, the mask he has mistaken for self. He rises before dawn and builds a fire. Flames crackle, casting long shadows that dance across his worn face. He places before him an old piece of calligraphy. His name, written years ago in bold, confident brushstrokes. Each stroke screams, I am Musashi. Undefeated, unstoppable, eternal. He stares at it for a long time. Then he speaks aloud. If I cling to this name, I will never know who I truly am. He holds the parchment above the fire. It catches slowly, edges curling, ink bleeding into flame. As it burns, he feels something break, not outside, but inside. A silent death, a surrender. The mountain seems to sigh in relief. The narrator's tone deepens, wise, solemn, transcendent. To master the mind, the warrior must die before he dies. Ego is the final enemy, the invisible one that wears your own face. Psychology would later call this ego dissolution, the collapse of the false self that filters every experience through comparison, control, and fear. When that structure crumbles, consciousness expands, not into nothing, but into everything. Musashi begins to experience this expansion. When he breathes, the forest breathes. When he exhales, the fire flickers. His identity softens into presence, and for the first time, he feels weightless. Yet the process is not peace. It is a burning. The mind resists its own extinction, clinging to memories, names, and stories. He learns that ego is not destroyed in a moment. It is starved through awareness, and awareness requires pain. Night falls. He sits again before the ashes of his name. The fire is gone. Only embers remain, glowing faintly like dying stars. He whispers, "Let the false die, so the true may live." In that silence, he feels it. A faint stillness blooming inside his chest, vast as the sky, light as wind, the death of self and the birth of seeing. In the ashes of identity, a new presence awakens, one that no title, no victory, and no fear can touch. Chapter 3, Part 2, The Empty Mirror, Morning. The mountain glows with pale gold. Mist drifts across the trees, and Musashi sits unmoving, his breath steady, his heart quiet. Something fundamental has shifted. The I that once narrated every moment now feels distant, fading like a voice at the end of a long hallway. He watches thoughts rise and fall, but none of them claim him anymore. He has become the watcher behind the mind. Yet the ego does not die easily. It creeps back through memory. It takes new shapes, subtle, seductive, sometimes as doubt. What if this stillness is weakness? Sometimes as desire. Should I return and prove I have transcended them all? And sometimes, most deceptively, as peace itself. You are enlightened now. He smiles faintly. He sees the trick. The ego will even wear holiness to survive. He begins a practice, not of movement, but of disappearance. At dawn, he walks to the edge of the cliff overlooking the valley. The horizon stretches infinite, clouds rolling like white waves. He closes his eyes and whispers, I am not the mountain. I am not the wind. I am not the sword. I am the awareness that watches them all. The words dissolve as soon as they are spoken, leaving only breath, deep, grounded, unclaimed. He stands for hours, feeling the weight of his body merge with the earth beneath him. Each thought that arises is seen and released, like a leaf falling into the stream below. And in that seeing, something extraordinary happens, a moment of absolute nothingness. No Musashi, no self, only awareness, only being. For a heartbeat, he is the mountain, the air, the silence itself. No division, no duality. The narration deepens, measured, poetic, reverent. When the self dissolves, mastery begins. Not the mastery of control, but the mastery of surrender. Modern neuroscience calls this the flow state, the merging of action and awareness. In that state, the prefrontal cortex, the seat of ego and identity, temporarily shuts down. Time distorts. Fear vanishes. Action becomes effortless. Musashi, centuries before this science, has stumbled into the same truth through stillness, not study. The warrior's ultimate weapon, he realizes, is not power. It is presence. One evening, as he meditates by the dying fire, a moth flutters into the flame. It burns instantly, but its light lingers. He watches, entranced. So this, he murmurs, is how the self must end, drawn to the very light that consumes it. He closes his eyes, and for the first time he bows, not to any god or teacher, but to the invisible order that governs all things, the order that destroys the false to reveal the real. He feels no pride in his transformation, only gratitude, quiet, nameless, infinite. Weeks later, he descends the mountain slightly, just enough to see the river again. The water reflects his face, older, leaner, calmer. He does not recognize it, and that, he realizes, is freedom. He kneels, cups the cold water in his hands, and whispers, when the self dies, the path begins. As the current flows between his fingers, the image fades. No Musashi, no man, only motion. He rises slowly, turning toward the valley below, toward life, toward discipline, toward the next lesson. Having slain the ego, he returns to simplicity, where every act, no matter how small, becomes sacred training. Chapter 4. The Discipline of the Everyday Part 1. The Blade of Routine. When Musashi descends from the mountain, the world feels different, not because it has changed, but because he has. The noise of the markets, the chatter of merchants, the clang of blacksmiths, all once distractions. now sound like a symphony of presence. He moves through the village quietly, unseen, like wind brushing silk. Where others hurry, he observes. Where others speak, he listens. He has carried the mountain's silence into the valley, but silence is not stillness, and peace is not passivity. He knows this. So each morning, before the sun reaches the rooftops, he begins his discipline: sword practice, breath work, writing, observation, not for glory, for clarity. Each motion, no matter how repetitive, becomes a ceremony of intention. He sharpens the blade, but what he's truly sharpening is his awareness. When the blade is dull, he reminds himself, it cannot cut. When the mind is dull, it cannot see. He eats in silence, tasting each grain of rice as if it were sacred. He drinks water as though it were life's first offering. And when he walks, he feels the earth beneath every step, firm, grounding, alive. To an onlooker, Musashi's days might appear uneventful, but within that monotony, a deeper mastery takes root, the art of doing simple things with complete attention. At dusk, he practices drawing his sword, not against enemies, but against distraction itself. Each unsheathing becomes a meditation. The pull, the breath, the pause, the resheath. 4 movements, yet infinite layers of awareness. Every motion demands full presence, and every lapse in focus reveals his remaining ignorance. This is the discipline of the everyday, to turn each mundane act into a mirror for the spirit. He recalls a saying from his master long ago: "A warrior is not made in battle, but in breakfast." At the time, he laughed. Now he understands. Greatness is not born in moments of intensity, but in moments of consistency. As the days stretch into weeks, his body becomes lean, effortless, almost translucent in motion. The villagers begin to whisper about the quiet swordsman who trains without rest, who speaks to no one, yet radiates calm like the mountain itself. A young boy once asks him, "Master, why do you train when there is no war?" Musashi looks down, eyes soft but unwavering. "Because the war is within." The boy blinks, confused. Musashi only smiles and continues to clean his blade. It is not arrogance, it is compassion. He knows the child will one day understand. As night falls, he writes in his journal by candlelight. Discipline is not punishment. It is devotion. The daily returning to the present moment, even when it feels dull, even when the soul resists. The path is walked not through leaps, but through steps. He closes the book, extinguishes the flame, and sits in silence. Outside, the wind sighs through the trees. The same wind that once howled in his restless heart. He listens, smiling faintly. The same world, a different man. But discipline is tested not in solitude. It is tested in chaos, and soon, life will summon him to prove that his peace is not fragile. Chapter 4, Part 2. The test of stillness. Weeks turn into months. The rhythm of Musashi's life becomes a pulse. Steady, deliberate, unbroken. Morning sword drills, midday meditation, evening reflection. His world is simplicity itself, but the universe, ever the teacher, never allows peace to remain untested. One morning, as Musashi tends to his small garden, a group of wandering samurai passes through the village. Their laughter cuts through the calm like rusted blades. They mock the peasants, spill sake, and boast of their victories. One of them, young, arrogant, eyes sharp with unearned pride, spots Musashi standing quietly by the well. "Old man," he sneers, I've heard tales of the great Musashi, but I see only a farmer with a broom. The villagers freeze. They whisper the name Musashi with reverence, fear, awe. The young swordsman doesn't notice the stillness that has swallowed the air. Musashi turns slowly, his movements fluid as drifting smoke. He meets the youth's gaze, not with hostility, but with silence so heavy it unsettles the heart. If you seek to fight, Musashi says softly, you will find no opponent here. The youth smirks. Then you are a coward. Musashi looks down at the broom in his hands. He feels its weight, light, harmless, unthreatening. Yet in his grip, it becomes something else, a symbol of mastery over the self. He steps forward, calm as the tide. A coward fights to prove strength. A master fights only to preserve peace. For a moment, no one breathes. The young warrior hesitates. There is no visible challenge, no stance of aggression, only a depth of presence that disarms more effectively than steel. The boy's ego trembles beneath that silence. And in his heart, a seed of shame, or perhaps wisdom, begins to sprout. He bows, muttering a curse, and leaves with his companions. Musashi watches them fade into the horizon. Then, with the same ease, he returns to sweeping the ground. Later that night, as moonlight drips across the tatami floor, Musashi reflects on what occurred. He realizes that the duel had already taken place. Not with swords, but within. His calm had been the blade, his silence, the strike, and his discipline, the victory. He writes, the true warrior does not seek conflict, but neither does he fear it. His stillness is not weakness, it is readiness in disguise. Days later, rain falls over the valley. Musashi walks through the mist, each droplet a reminder of impermanence. Every sound, the patter on leaves, the whisper of wind, is an echo of his own heartbeat. He pauses by the riverbank, watching the current swirl around a half-submerged stone. He sees himself in that image, still amidst motion, unshaken amidst chaos. He whispers to the stream, this is discipline, to remain unmoved by what moves around you. By the time the storm ends, Musashi's robe clings to his skin, but his spirit stands dry, untouched. He returns to his hut and begins again, polishing the blade, tending the fire, reciting the lessons of the day. Every repetition is a vow renewed, every act a meditation on mastery. He no longer seeks peace, he embodies it. And in this quiet devotion, his focus becomes ruthless, not through force, but through flow, not through tension, but through surrender. As night closes in, he kneels and whispers a final prayer. Let each small act reveal the vast. Let each motion become the mirror of truth. The candle flickers once, then steadies. Outside, the wind bows before the discipline of the man who no longer needs to prove. But even the most disciplined soul must one day face his reflection and discover that the final duel is never fought with another, but with the self. Chapter 5. The Duel Within the Part 1. The Mirror of Fear. The valley stretches before Musashi like a living canvas. Each tree, stone and ripple in the river, a silent witness. He has mastered the mundane, surrendered the ego, and walked the path of presence. Yet, deep within, a shadow stirs, subtle, patient, unrelenting. It is fear, not the fear of battle, not the fear of men, but the fear of himself. Musashi stands alone on the edge of a clearing. The wind brushes his hair, the sun dips low, and he senses the duel he has always feared. The one without an opponent, without sword, without witness. He breathes, he closes his eyes, and suddenly, the forest around him shifts. Shadows lengthen, twisting into shapes familiar yet impossible. Faces of his past opponents appear, not as enemies, but as mirrors, each a reflection of his own doubt, hesitation, and pride. A chorus of whispers fills the air. You are not ready. You will fail. You cannot hold still when chaos rises. Musashi opens his eyes. The ground beneath him feels unstable. His body trembles, a reminder that even the most disciplined cannot outrun themselves. He grips his sword, and yet he does not strike. The blade, polished and sharp, is a tool, not a master. He realizes the opponent before him is neither flesh nor blood. It is the echo of every time he has wavered, every time fear dictated motion, every time hesitation replaced presence. He begins to move, not with the flash of attack, but with a deliberate, rhythmic flow. The shadow mirrors him, parries his movements, tests his resolve. Each strike is a conversation, each pause a revelation. Focus is not what you hold, he whispers to the wind. It is what you let go. Musashi breathes through the tension. Every muscle is aware, every thought observed, every doubt confronted and released. The shadows close in, a whirlwind of inner chaos. Pain, memory, desire, and fear collide. Yet he does not flinch, not because he is fearless, but because he has learned the weight of stillness. In the distance, the mountains watch silently. The river murmurs, time slows, each second stretching like molten metal. He moves through the echoes of himself with precision and grace. Each strike, each block, each pivot is not reaction. It is presence made physical. Through this internal battle, a truth emerges. The final duel is never external. It is fought within the boundaries of mind, spirit, and breath. Musashi stops, heart steady, sword lowered. The shadows falter, then dissipate like mist at dawn. He is not victorious because they are gone, but because he has seen them for what they are. Reflections of his own fear, waiting only to be acknowledged. The narrator's voice deepens. Every warrior must face himself. Every mind harbors an opponent unseen, and it is only by confronting the self without flinching that mastery becomes more than skill. It becomes freedom. Musashi stands alone in the clearing. The sun sinks below the horizon, casting long golden shadows. He feels the river's pulse, the wind's whisper, the earth beneath his feet, all in perfect alignment with his own rhythm. The duel is over, yet the lesson is eternal. And in this victory over himself, he prepares to confront the world once more, not with the sword of steel, but the blade of absolute awareness. Chapter 5, Part 2. Victory without strike. Night falls over the clearing, a silver veil draping the earth in quiet reflection. Musashi stands with his sword lowered, chest rising and falling, like the rhythm of the river beside him. The shadows have vanished, but the lesson lingers, deep, undeniable, eternal. He walks slowly to the riverbank, kneeling beside the water. His reflection ripples, fractured by gentle currents. For a long moment, he stares into himself. Not the face of Musashi, the swordsman, the legend, but the face of a man who has confronted fear without fleeing, who has observed the self without judgment, and who has emerged whole. The wind rustles through the reeds, carrying a message older than any school of swordsmanship. True focus is not holding on, it is letting go. He dips his hands into the river. letting the water flow between his fingers. It is cold, yet invigorating, a baptism of clarity. Each droplet becomes a reminder the present is all there is. All else, ego, doubt, distraction, are illusions waiting to be released. Musashi rises, returning to the path that leads to the village. The moon casts long shadows behind him. He does not rush. Every step is deliberate, attentive, sacred. The villagers see a quiet man walking home, carrying nothing but his presence. No one dares speak. No one interrupts. Even in a world accustomed to chaos, his mastery radiates without proclamation. He thinks back to the duels of his youth, the blood, the fame, the applause that once mattered, and he smiles faintly. Victory over others had always been temporary, but victory over the self, that is eternal. Science would later affirm this. Meditative focus reduces the amygdala's reactivity, lowers stress, heightens attention, and strengthens executive control. Musashi feels this truth in his bones, centuries before neuroscience could define it. The duel within is not metaphor. It is biology, philosophy, and spirit fused. The night deepens, stars reflected in the calm river. Musashi meditates by the water, hand hovering over the hilt of his sword. He does not touch it. The weapon is no longer a tool for proving strength. It is an extension of discipline, a reminder of presence, a silent companion in mastery. In this moment, he realizes the duel is eternal. Every day presents temptation, fear, doubt, distraction, and every day requires the same awareness, the same discipline, the same surrender. The blade may rest, but the mind must never. He closes his eyes, he breathes, and he feels the seamless merging of self with all things. The opponent was never outside, he whispers, and yet no victory could ever be sweeter. Dawn begins to break. The first light spills across the valley, illuminating the dew-laden grass. Musashi stands, letting the warmth touch his face. He feels neither pride nor triumph, only presence. And in that presence, he knows focus is not seized, it is lived. He lifts his sword once, slowly, deliberately, then sheathes it without haste. It is a gesture, not of combat, but of acknowledgement, of the harmony between action and stillness, between will and surrender, between discipline and freedom. Having conquered himself, he now carries the path outward, to teach that mastery of attention is the highest form of freedom, and that the warrior's true battle is to live fully aware in every moment. Chapter 6. The Path of Presence. Part 1. The eye of the eternal years have passed. The mountains and rivers remain unchanged, yet Musashi has transformed entirely. The boy who once sought victory over men has become a man who seeks mastery over life itself. He sits cross-legged on a veranda overlooking a still pond. The sun rises slowly, painting the water gold. Musashi's hand hovers over paper and ink, the brush poised like a blade. Today, he will write what he has learned, not of duels, not of fame, but of seeing. To master the world, he writes, one must first master attention. The eye of the warrior is calm. The mind of the warrior is still. The spirit of the warrior is free. He pauses, listening to the soft murmur of the forest behind him. A bird lands on a branch, its tiny claws gripping the bark. A dragonfly skims the surface of the pond. He observes, and in observation, he finds depth, not through action, but through awareness. His fame has spread, yet he moves quietly among students and villagers alike. No one truly grasps the magnitude of his mastery. They see a man, a teacher, a swordsman. But the truth is beyond form. It is presence itself, the art of being fully awake in a world built on distraction. He recalls the scrolls of his youth, the countless battles, the duels that shaped him. All were practice, all were lessons in the subtle art of attention. Every cut, every pause, every strike had been a meditation. Every moment he thought he fought another. He had been confronting the self, and now, in the quiet light of dawn, he understands fully. The path of the warrior is not conquest, but constant awareness. It is to walk the world uncluttered by fear, ego, or illusion. The narration deepens, rich and resonant. The mind is a battlefield, and the world is endless. Yet the warrior who masters his attention walks untouched through the noise, seeing without distortion, acting without hesitation, present in every breath, every step, every glance. Musashi dips his brush into the ink again. He writes of strategy, yes, but also of life, of stillness, of the invisible discipline that governs thought. The brush moves fluidly, rhythmically, as if it carries the echo of all the swords he has ever drawn. He writes not for others, but for the clarity that comes from articulation. Words become practice, just as sword, breath, and silence once were. He pauses, gazing at modern villagers passing by, their faces lit by small, glowing devices. Their eyes flit from light to light, distraction chaining them, curiosity scattered, focus fractured. He smiles faintly, for he sees himself in them centuries ago. The lesson remains unchanged. To master the world is to master the mind. To master the mind is to master attention. And attention, when disciplined, is freedom itself. The wind rustles, carrying the faint scent of pine. Musashi breathes it in, letting it fill his chest, his awareness, his presence. The path stretches onward, infinite, serene, unwavering. The journey continues, not through conquest, but through living fully awake. Each moment a duel with distraction, each breath a testament to discipline. And so, the final lesson emerges. The warrior's path is not measured in victories over men, but in the mastery of attention, presence, and the art of being alive. Chapter 6, Part 2. The final lesson. The sun climbs higher, spilling light across the village. Musashi walks slowly through the narrow streets, observing life in its unfiltered form. Children laugh, merchants haggle, and elders speak softly under the shade of their eaves. Every movement, every sound, every subtle shift is a lesson. A reminder that awareness is not confined to the dojo or battlefield. He pauses at the edge of the river where water flows endlessly, indifferent to time. The current mirrors life, relentless, flowing, impossible to hold. He kneels, tracing the motion with his fingertips. For a moment, he sees not the river, but the world itself, an infinite array of distractions, challenges, and temptations, all of which are conquered not by force, but by attention. To master the world, he whispers, one must first master the mind. The body obeys the mind. The world obeys presence. Musashi reflects on the centuries to come. He sees men and women enslaved by devices, minds pulled in 1,000 directions, souls hungry for the ephemeral, the superficial. He understands that the battle he fought is eternal. Every era has its noise, its duels, its illusions. The only constant is the path, discipline, stillness, focus, and surrender. He lifts his gaze to the mountains that once sheltered him in solitude, the same peaks that tested his body, mind, and spirit now stand as silent mentors, eternal witnesses of his transformation. The journey that began with fear, noise, and ego has led him here, to a life where every moment is deliberate, every breath carries intention, every act embodies mastery. In the quiet of his hut, he writes his final lines. The warrior is not the one who conquers others, but the one who conquers himself. Attention is the sharpest blade. Presence is the highest mastery. To live fully awake is the true path of the sword. He closes the scroll, laying the brush beside it. The words are not for fame, nor for wealth, nor for glory. They are a map, a guide for those willing to walk the path of presence. Later, as evening falls, Musashi meditates beneath the stars. The sky stretches infinite, yet he feels no smallness. He feels connected to the rhythm of life itself. Every heartbeat, every whisper of wind, every rustle of leaves, all are reflections of the stillness he carries within. In this final act, he understands the truth that has guided every step. Discipline is devotion. Silence is power. Ego is an illusion. Focus is freedom. The warrior's path is not conquest, he murmurs. It is awareness in every moment, in every action, in every breath. The camera pans outward, from Musashi's hut, the village, the river, to the mountains beyond. The world unfolds, chaotic yet beautiful, and through it all, the rhythm of disciplined presence endures. The blade that once cut flesh now cuts illusion. The warrior who once sought victory now walks fully awake. The path is complete, yet endless. Final narration. The core moral: ruthless focus is not found through force. It is forged in silence, through the death of ego and the birth of presence. Master your mind, and you master the world. The fire has dimmed. The sword rests quietly at Musashi's side. The mountain wind whispers through the trees, carrying lessons older than time itself. And now, the path extends beyond this story, into your world. Remember, mastery is not in moments of spectacle, but in presence, discipline, and focus applied every day. The path Musashi walked is not behind the screen, but in the way you breathe, the way you act, the way you see. If this journey has stirred something within you, a spark of curiosity, a call to stillness, a reminder of your own potential, then do not let it fade. Share this story, comment your reflections below, and engage with others walking their own path. Let the lessons ripple outward. And if you wish to continue walking the path of presence together, to forge discipline, focus, and awareness with every story we share, then subscribe. Stay with us, for the journey never ends. The warrior's path is timeless, and your first step begins now.